Former U.S. Ambassador John Bolton speaks during the CPAC gathering in February in National Harbor, MD. Photo by Alex Wong, Getty Images. Thursday evening, 2 days after the 15th anniversary of the start of the Iraq War, President Trump tweeted that he would replace his National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster with John Bolton. The appointment of Bolton, well known for his very hawkish views, immediately sounded alarm bells for those who recalled his role in the Iraq War and who are concerned about U.S. policy toward North Korea and Iran. Bolton is at the far end of the hawkish spectrum on foreign policy. Trump has expressed mixed views on military force, but Bolton's views look as if they will dovetail with Trump's confrontational stance toward both North Korea and Iran. Recently, for example, Bolton penned an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal making a legal case for a first strike against North Korea. Still, the appointment does not necessarily mean that war is imminent, yet. Here are 3 ways foreign policy advisors, and especially hawkish advisors, matter. 1. Hawkish advisors can play a large role in foreign policy decision-making. One basic question is, how much do foreign policy advisors matter? In my own research, I have found that they do, particularly when the president is inexperienced. George W. Bush's inexperience effectively delegated enormous power to his foreign policy advisors, with little presidential monitoring or oversight, contributing to the planning failures in the Iraq War. But research also suggests that hawks play a particularly large role. One reason comes from psychology. As the economist Daniel Kahneman and the political scientist Jonathan Renchen have written, a bias in favor of hawkish beliefs and preferences is built into the fabric of the human mind. The arguments of hawkish advisors often play into policymakers' psychological biases and shortcuts, such as over-optimism about potential conflicts, or the aversion to cutting losses. As a result, in debates about war, decision-makers are more likely to listen to hawks than doves. 2. But hawks may be less helpful for selling a new war. A hawk like Bolton might have a more limited role in how others perceive a potential conflict. In research that will be published later this year, I used a survey experiment conducted on a sample of approximately 3,000 Americans to examine how different advisors' statements about a hypothetical conflict affected public support for war and presidential approval. I found that whether a hawkish advisor publicly supports or opposes a potential conflict affects both public support for war and public approval of the president. In general, if the president follows any advisor's advice, approval goes up, if not, it goes down. But a hawkish advisor's support or opposition to a potential troop deployment was more important for Democratic presidents, partly because of the stereotype of Democrats as weak on national security. For Republican presidents, a hawk's statement could still matter, but mainly when a hawkish advisor opposed war, primarily because such a stance is surprising. More important for Republican presidents was whether an advisor known for more restrained views on using military force came out in support of the war. This is one reason Colin Powell's public support for the Iraq War was so important to the Bush administration. In Bolton's case, his hawkish views, and his history in the Iraq War, likely already influence how others perceive any statements he might make in favor of war. Even if the public does not pay close attention to Beltway foreign policy debates, or even know who Bolton is, members of Congress, who can send important signals to the public about foreign policy, will likely similarly discount his views. After all, Congress didn't confirm the George W. Bush administration's nomination of Bolton for UN ambassador, he received a recess appointment. 3. Even advisors with strongly biased views can have surprising effects on decision-making. Bolton's hawkishness is well known. But an argument made by political scientist Randall Calvert about biased information suggests an unlikely, but still possible, way that Bolton might have a surprising effect. Calvert notes that if the decision-maker who favors a policy has 2 advisors, one neutral and one also predisposed to that policy, it actually can make sense for the decision-maker to consult the biased advisor. Why? Because the decision-maker who favors a policy like war is not likely to be swayed by the objective advice from the neutral advisor. But, Calvert writes,